pirate fans. It's Brian. I'm back with Pirates of the Wild West podcast, the podcast where I talk about Pirates of the Wild West, my book that I have now finished, as I've said before, and the book will be coming out this year for sure. I'm in the process of doing a little bit of editing before it goes out to an editor. I'm actually looking now for cover designs as well. So I feel like it's getting a little bit exciting as I'm putting together the pieces of this book launch that will come out hopefully March, April of this year, depending on if everything comes together for me. And today I'm going to talk about the last character in this series for Pirates of the Wild West. This character is named Charlotte de Berry. Now, I've talked about Blackbeard, I've talked about Benjamin Hornigold, Anne Bonny, Mary Read, Charles Vane, the Pirate Hunters, and now this is the final female pirate that I'm going to talk about from this book. And I hope you enjoy this. You can reach me at darkgravitystudios@gmail.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast. I'll have a few more episodes coming out after this, as well as a new launch of a new site. So I have this website that is under my name, bryancantrell.com. And on that website, you can join my mailing list so that you'll get updates on when this book will release, as well as any other information that comes out, maybe about the podcast, maybe about other things. So if you want to join the mailing list, you can find it there. Well, in that site, also, I just started a pirate fan club. So that actually has you can use the same domain, but I also got the domain piratefanclub.com. So you can use either one of those to reach the site. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to add pirate information to that site, kind of build it out. So if you were a fan of pirates, that might be a little destination to find pirate content, pirate information, links to great stuff that I found, some research stuff that helped me write this book will be on that site as well. So Charlotte de Berry. Now, there are many female pirates that can be found in history, like Anne Bonny and Mary Read, who are in my book. And they each of those have episodes on this podcast earlier in the series. And if you haven't listened to them, you should go back and give those a listen and find out more about Anne Bonny and Mary Read. But there's another very cool female pirate that was active during those golden years of piracy. And those golden years of piracy took place between 1650 to 1724. And her name was Charlotte de Berry. Now, Charlotte was a striking figure. She was tall for her time, with dark skin, long hair that she wore in dreads with beads in her hair. And by all accounts, she was quite attractive. She didn't disguise herself as a man like Anne Bonny and Mary Read had, but she did wear men's breeches to give her, that free flow of movement that dresses of a woman would never allow. You might think that a woman on board a pirate ship full of male pirates might be, a target for sexual assaults, even rape. But Charlotte, she could be as fierce as any man, and she was so skilled with a blade and that with her place on the ship that most of the crew respected her, as well as they feared what would happen if they got out of line with her. They might find appendages separated from their body if they were to get on the bad side of this pirate queen. Now, Charlotte and her crew spent most of their years of piracy around the tip of Africa. They did venture into the Caribbean waters around 1718, but let me start at the beginning for Charlotte. Now, Charlotte de Berry was born in 1693 on the coast of Benin, Africa, in the bustling port town of Porto Novo. Her father was a white man and a quartermaster with a merchant fleet out of France that transported slaves from the Bight of Bryn to the Caribbean and to the Americas. Now, he had fallen in love with Charlotte's mother, who her family were a multi-generation of swordsmiths out of Porto Nuevo. And once her father took an African for his wife, the man could no longer stomach being part of the slave trade. He left that merchant fleet and became a fisherman. And as Charlotte grew up, he taught Charlotte sailing skills at a very young age, while on her mother's side of the family, they introduced Charlotte to the benefits of a sharp blade. Her weapon of choice was a kukuri, it's a machete-like sword. It features like a 8-inch curved blade. So hers was very ornate. Obviously, her family was swordsmith, so the design of her sword was beautiful, and she could wield this thing like no one else. Charlotte also was drawn to the sea, just as her father was. And though her family disapproved of her becoming a sailor, there was no talking the strong-willed young woman out of it. She began working on merchant ships, dealing with ivory and furs going back and forth between Africa and the West Indies from the age of about 17, maybe to 24. And then in 1717, Charlotte led a mutiny on an 8-gun merchant ship. This was after the greedy captain of the ship had decided to take on 40 slaves for delivery to the Virginia governor in the New World. Now, there were harsh words between her and the captain after dinner one night, and that led her to free and arm those slaves that they had taken on that were in the cargo hold. And so between her, those slaves, and some of the sailors that were like-minded like her, about 20 of them, they ended up mutinying and taking over that ship. Now, Charlotte ended up slaying the captain in this quick battle of swords, and that basically ended the mutiny in her favor. Her unique fighting style and ferocity in battle, and from like several of the past battles, that allowed her to rise the ranks to hold high position on these ships that she was working on. And now, having led this successful mutiny, the remaining crew was ingratiated towards her, with the former slaves as well. They all elected her captain of this ship. Charlotte was wickedly fast with her blades, and none, including the men on board the ship, ever dared to cross blades with her past this mutiny. But she did have very poor eyesight. She was not a skilled navigator, and this poor eyesight made her an extremely bad shot with a pistol. So basically, I think she could see things close up, which allowed her to fight with melee weapons, but seeing anything beyond the yardarm was not going to be very good for Charlotte. So now Charlotte was now the captain of her own vessel. Though becoming a legitimate merchant was out of the realm of possibilities because she became a captain through mutiny. So her and her crew were now wanted pirates because of this. And this was a title that Charlotte and her crew would come to embrace. She renamed her ship the Yermanja. I hope I'm saying that right. The Yermanja. This was after the African goddess of the ocean. And they began plundering the sailing route known as the Pilot Round. Now, this route started out in Western Atlantic or the Caribbean, and sometimes even further up the Atlantic coastline, even sometimes starting from New York or England. And it would go, it would be sailing around the tip of Africa en route to Madagascar from Cape Horn. So her ship kind of pirated ships throughout that route. Wherever the starting point of this was for pirates of this day, the Pirate Round journey would bring them towards Africa and then head north to target the ships in the Red Sea, pillaging merchants from many different countries throughout this lucrative trading route. Well, in 1718, the area became too hot for most pirates as the East India Company began heavily arming their ships and the crowns of England, Spain, and France, who were now not friends, but they weren't at war at this time, they put forth a great effort to end the mighty toll that the pirates were having on these merchant ships throughout the Atlantic. So Charlotte brought the Yarmanda and her crew down to the Caribbean waters, where the pirates still greatly outnumbered the European navies. She spent most of that year sailing out of Nassau into the Florida Keys and then up into South Carolina. Like other female pirates, Charlotte dressed in breeches like her fellow male pirates, as I said earlier. She was known for the long, beaded, braided hair, with shirts displaying her sleeveless arms decorated with silver and gold armbands, and the tribal tattoos from Africa. And it was said that she had had a contentious relationship with Anne Bonny for reasons that aren't really well known. But one account has those two women coming to blows outside a tavern in the dusty streets of Nassau. During this time, Charlotte had caught the eye of another pirate that I have talked about on this podcast, is Black Bart Roberts. This happened in about 1718 in the summer. The two captains and their ships ended up sailing side by side, joining together in a raid on a Dutch merchant just outside of Havana, Cuba. The two pirates were rumored to have a child together, but really there's no evidence in this in any historical records. In fact, their two ships were separated during a hurricane only a week later after this raid near Bermuda, and that's the last time they were really known to be in the same area at all. About the time of the king's pardon being offered by Woodes Rogers is really the last account of Charlotte de Barry and the Yarmanja. She and her crew were recorded to be in town in Nassau when Woodes and his escort of British Navy ships arrives. Now, whether Charlotte and her crew signed the king's pardon is not known. Maybe she gave up piracy at that point or became a casualty of the hunt for pirates led by Woodes. She could have sailed home with her spoils and lived her life, as her father did, fishing the waters of Porto Novo. But her short time as a pirate is as colorful as any of the notorious Golden Age pirates. So Charlotte de Barry is part of my book, and she's the last one, obviously, as I said, that we'll talk about on this series. So next is, as I said, the editing and the book cover design. And I will do one or two more episodes in the series of this podcast, really just to update you on where we're at with the book, as well as reading possibly a chapter or two on this podcast to see if anybody gets enticed and has interest and wants to join in on this with me. So you can, once again, subscribe to the mailing list for the podcast and for the book at bryancantrell.com. And then, as I've said before, I'm really active on the Facebook groups for pirates. It's a lot of fun to join in. There's just amazing bits of historical information. There's so many people that are really knee-deep in pirate culture. You can tell from their Facebook photos that they are really living the life of a pirate. There's really some pirates out there that, they do Ren fairs and they dress up and participate in reenactments and things like that. So if you do have a Facebook account and you want to find me there, let's be friends on that. And there's also a Pirates of the Wild West Facebook page as well, which you can find information about all the stuff I've been talking about here. And that's about it. So I hope you are enjoying this, and I'm excited for the next steps. I hope you guys go out there and continue to enjoy pirate content and live the life of a pirate. All right, my mateys, talk to you soon.